privilege to anchor today's session. It's a great privilege to welcome our esteemed guest speaker for today's session, Professor Dr. Saroj Sharma ma'am. Dr. Saroj Sharma ma'am is a Dean School of Law at Presidency University with over 2 decades of experience in legal education and academic governance. A recipient of 2 university gold medals, she has supervised more than 10 doctoral scholars and authored works with Thomson Reuters and Scopus Index journals. Her research spans criminal justice systems, digital codes, and regulatory frameworks for emerging technologies, making her the perfect voice to guide us through cyber law and women's digital rights. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Professor Dr. Saroj Sharma ma'am. Without further ado, I would like to hand over the mic to you.
Thank you so very much.
Welcome.
So before I start off with the session, I would like to understand as a cohort of, I understand it's a woman, but what are the age, what is their background? Are they students? Are they working professionals?
Ma'am, everybody are the participants from the colleges and practitioners.
Okay, so mixed cohort of girls
Yeah,
working
yes,
and the
yes,
students will be there.
yes.
So if they are from the law background, then they will have maybe having some fundamental knowledge about how this law works onto the cyber laws. But I kept it very fundamental as I have been informed that is going to be like the beginners who wants to understand the cyber law. So very good evening to all of you. First of all, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to Naksh Foundation for taking this initiative specifically for the women's. And such kind of an awareness is being required because many a times we think it's very common. We know about it just scanning through the reels or reading somewhere on the social medias. But knowing the exact positions and when what actions to be taken by an individual, especially for the women's, because they are very vulnerable targets for such kind of frauds or the wrong deeds which are being done onto the cyberspace. So I would just like to share my screen to make this session more interactive. Give me a second. Okay, so the topic which have been asked today is specifically focusing onto the cyber laws, the woman's right which have been given by the legislators, and how what a woman can do once such kind of an act which such cyber offense has been committed against her. So I've prepared it in a structured legal references where I cover the legislative framework. Although I will not be emphasizing much onto the legal sections, I would be referring the sections onto it, but what is exactly the section says and how it can be implemented, I will be focusing on to the mechanism, what exactly to do once you have been caught in such kind of a situations, what are the investigation procedures which have been followed in our country. And it's just not specifically the women's, it's common for all of us, whether irrespective of the genders, but we are focusing specifically onto the provisions onto this. So by the end of this session, I believe that all the participants will be able to identify what are the cyber crimes which have been there against the woman, what are their legal rights, how to preserve the digital evidences once such kind of an offense is committed, where exactly they can report, what are the procedures which have been followed in our country, and what exactly happens after the complaint has been filed, what are the steps which have been there, what are the existing laws, and how they can simply protect themselves from these digital safety practices which they can practice in the future. So starting with it, most of us would have faced somewhere or the others. We must have received some unknown WhatsApp call. Sometime we have been asked to click to pay our like our cars have been fined and we have to pay the penalty. Sometimes we have been asked to we have been receiving the KYCs and we have been by the banks fake IDs which have been there and we have been asked to fill up the KYCs. Sometimes our photographs have been misused and we warn out on the Facebook or in the Insta that please do not follow this, I'm not this. They try to take money, morphing of pictures and creating no own ID card. There are no new IDs onto the Instas or onto the X, anywhere they can create onto this. Can the audience resonate with this? It has happened with you or your loved ones or your friends nearby? Any instance anybody would like to share? Has it happened with anybody? Yes, somebody speaking. So you are here only to take up a theory session from me? Let's share the experiences. It's not a typical academic session. I was expecting the audience could be talking about their experiences. May not be with you, maybe with your near loved ones or your friends in your college, in your university, workplace. Has such instances happened with you? Because I have been receiving such kind of a messages sometime, because I myself I faced that, and I've been asked to pay certain amount, but I was a little vigilant and could not. Yes, Ms. Namita.
Yeah, hi ma'am. Good evening. Incident do happen with us or in our surrounding. So people keep sharing with us. Like, one of my neighbors were there. One day she got a call and they were like, a lot of emergencies there. And in panic, she transferred a big amount
Yes,
to that
yes.
number without even thinking of or without even reassuring. So it happens, ma'am, and the motive behind we are here in the sessions is like how to overcome with all this and how to be, more protected and secure.
Yeah.
So
To be
we are
vigilant
seeking
is
for your
more
guidance.
important. What action, course of action to be taken once such incidences
Yes,
happen, right?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Truly agree, ma'am.
Yes. Ms. Kaur is there.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, everyone else. So a couple of times it has happened to me as well, and recently my sister also went through something similar. With me, I've only come across calls or emails and messages which would say like we have compromising pictures of you, or we have, or your parcel we have confiscated, and there was some sort of narcotics in it, or that you are under digital arrest and things like that. And thankfully I am from law background and I know that how these things work, so I have never fell prey to any of this. But my younger sister recently fell
You
prey
are
to
trapped
this,
into
and
this.
they
Yes.
they morphed her pictures with deep fake and everything, and she was really scared that what if these got out, and how her family is going to react, or how the society is going to react. So that was really traumatizing for her.
Absolutely, I agree on to it. Like you talked about some parcel confiscations that happened. It happened with one of my cousins also, and she was a little scared and she was expecting something onto it. She sold her jewelry also to pay that 2 lakh rupees to the person who was demanding onto it. Despite being so educated, people they do get trapped onto it, and we think that we know everything, yet we get trapped onto it. I'm talking about one of my cousin who has done this. So I felt these sessions are very, very important for the women to know about it, because they get easily. So I'm just sharing certain datas. I visited to this National Crimes Records Bureau, and I tried to find out what are the registered crime cases which are being there. And I could not find anything with regard to 25 and 26 data, although I tried to find it out if it is updated there, but there are no recorded cases. But I could find certain. I think I visited onto the other site, that is on National Cybercrime Reporting Portal, where only the complaints which have been received and not the FIR which have been registered, right? So, what are the reported cases I could find of 2025 and 2026? And if you could see the numbers like registered, if you see the cases which have been registered were around 1 lakh in 2024, and it has increased. There is a quite high point to 28 lakhs complaints which have been filed. You might find there are certain overlapping onto it. It might be because certain complaints do not convert into the filing of an FIRs. If there's no FIRs, then it will not be coming onto the NCRB portal there. But these figures are quite alarming, and it raises the concerns that yes, we are required to know about our rights. So, what are the cyber laws which are affecting the women? I will just quickly take you through onto it. So, on the slide, I've tried to identify certain provisions which have been there. If you could see, there is an legal. These are the legal definitions I have picked up. Law people will understand exactly. We have to, whenever we want to prove certain offenses into the court of law, to get the justice, we need to justify the definition whether it falls within the purview of the definitions of the provisions which is governing that act. So it is an IT, this is Information Technology Act, and these are certain provisions. I will not read the provisions, but I would like you to know there are certain offenses like identifying the thefts, right? How it has been done. When as you all know, there's now we go for the electronic signatures. We all use our mobiles for that purpose. We also use the internet with for the bank websites, and we try to withdraw the amount to somebody who's trying to take away your electronic signatures, your passports. That's why we always been asked to go for the special characters, the caps, certain thing which is show that, and the digits on the numericals, so that it is unique, not to follow your own birth date, your family birth dates, your house numbers, which are very commonly can be trapped onto it. So we should take care of identity theft, which can be easily done by these people who try to trap you into the some cyber offenses committed against you. Then there are online cheatings, where the people who are using the computer as a resource or communication as a device, like phishing, fake websites, or online financial frauds. Then there's a privacy violations, right? You can refer the section side by side. I'm repeating, I'm not focusing onto the sections. So privacy violation is somewhere where the individual person, right? The person's private organs which are being without the consent of an individual, they are being shared, or they are being commonly used by the people for these offenses. Then obscene content means in any electronic form, anything which is objectionable, where in something into compromising position, something which relating to the sexual activities that are tend to be shared with somebody else who is not into, maybe the person is not interested into it, but you are sharing with us. Then sexually explicit content, when the person is been sharing the uh, sharing, or it's also been publishing onto this site such kind of sexually explicit content, which is more heinous and which is more serious than the obscene content, then it is called as sexually explicit content. Then anything relating to the child, as you all know, any child, any person who's below the 18 years, they cannot be recorded, they cannot into the sexual activities, their movies or the porn, they all cannot be created for such children's. Repeated online followers, this is under the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Is it visible, or this is blocking the view? Should I keep it
It's
this way?
visible, ma'am. It's visible. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
fine.
I hope it's not blocking. Is it? Yeah, I think it's better now. So repeated online, if somebody is trying to stalk you. Earlier, when we were young, the people used to follow us, right? They used to follow us on the bikes, on the vehicles, or there used to be landline calls. Now this stalking is being done online, maybe not the mobiles which have been used, any electronic communications through the internet, through your any of your social media IDs. The people try to follow up, and constantly you cleared your intention that I know I don't want to get in touch with you, but they keep on sharing those content with you. Then the voyeurism basically means when you are sharing the private images, when, as you all know about it, that when we go to the mall, we go and stay into the hotels, sometime into the washrooms, our personal images or the while changing, or this all been recorded. So these all fall under this voyeurism. So in the next slide, I have tried to put up certain illustrations for your quick reference. Identity theft, as I mentioned, if somebody uses your password, if somebody gets connect with your OTP, your Aadhaar number, your digital signatures, so you have to be very careful that why you should not share your passwords or the OTPs. Maybe the closest ones, your closest friends, your chuddy buddies, your any relative, you should refrain sharing such personal information with anybody there. It might lead to the committing of the frauds. Then there's an online cheating, as I told you, like the bank officials, they pretend to be the bank officials, they pretend to be the police officers, the employers, and then they try to fetch such information. As I said you earlier, also somebody takes away your ID, and they start asking for the money from your friends, that I need money, there's an urgency. So you should refrain before confirming from the individual itself. Then the privacy violation, somebody secretly recording you or sharing your private photographs. Maybe when you are in a close, intimate relationship with a boy, then there are chances that you should avoid sharing any personal moments at that point, clicking those moments or recording such kind of a moments, because that can be subsequently shared somewhere. Then obscene content, then you're posting or forwarding, as I already mentioned, certain objectionable, maybe the pictures of or the any kind of porn movies or pictures, which is not, the person is not intending to receive at the same time. Then the sexual explicit content, like showing certain videos of such an intimate, not of the person itself, but it could be of somebody else, and sharing onto the internet or through the messages on the apps. Child, I've already explained to any child below the 18 years cannot be, it's a very, very, very heinous offense. You cannot share, download, record, store, even search for such kind of an activity is completely being banned. And I explained to you repeated times, somebody's talking onto you constantly. You are trying to block the person, but they get another number, they get another ID, and they keep on sending you the unwanted messages. Because nowadays people do get the duplicate SIMs, and they start using. They know your number, they know your IDs. They keep on creating new IDs. You keep on blocking them, and they keep on sharing and following you. And then sharing the private images, as I said, when you're in the washroom, your hotels, you're in bedroom, be very careful, because it can be recorded. Now there are certain apps which are there where you can download onto your mobile, and you can check before you enter into a washroom or in a changing room. Because recently there was one of the reputed clothing mall, clothing styling which has been there. Even in that, it was found that cameras were there installed by the person. So if anybody's stealing, then is section 66C of the IT. It's a quick recap. If anybody's stealing, cheating, invading onto your privacy, they are sharing the obscene content, the content is sexually explicit, it involves a child, repetitively following you, harassing you, or recording or sharing the private images, these all are offenses. You should not take it lightly. You should immediately report for such, if any such act has happened against you. There's another act you all must have you heard about this DPDP Act, Digital Personal Data Protection? Anybody? Anybody? If somebody is raising the hand, because I cannot see because I've minimized, please speak.
Yes, ma'am, I have heard of it.
What
studied it yet.
What's your general information about this act? You must have read in the newspaper somewhere.
Yes, definitely I have. I feel it's to protect your digital privacy, and it basically categorizes our information into personal, sensitive, financial, I think, if I'm not wrong. And then there are certain measures that the act and the rules which are established under it, they provide, which especially these companies like Meta and Google and all of it, they must adhere to in order to protect our digital data.
Absolutely. When digital, it talks digital personal data protection. Now, digital could be your contact number, your pictures, with regard to your email IDs, your account numbers. So sometimes we are buying from Swiggy, so you auto save your card there, your card number, the CCV which has been CVV which has been there, and the year expiry. So you keep on entering these data, and sometimes we click onto that. Next time I visit onto the same app, because each time you have to you have to open your purse or your wallet, you have to take out a card and enter the entire data. So sometimes we auto protect it, so that next time when we visit there, we need not have to re-enter, rather just we have to enter an OTP and we can buy the product onto it. So whenever you click onto, they are mentioning it is as per the RBI rules. So this is mandated. Even when you use the WhatsApp and all, it's all says encrypted, right? Means encrypted means if I'm sending it to you, it will be with you and me only. No third person like WhatsApp or the Meta or anybody else could not have an access to the same. There had been in cases where the personal data has been shared. Suppose I registered or I went to a mall, and because sometimes we get points and we enter our numbers. So what these small people will do, they will collect all the data, and they will keep on selling. Somebody who's selling some properties or something, they keep on sharing my data. So I keep on getting the calls, or if I go to the bank, I enter all my details, then I keep on getting the calls onto the taking a loan or something extra and opening an account or something like that. So to protect this, there was used to be a mass sharing of the data onto it. That's why we felt at the need that there is a need to have a digital personal data protection of the individuals. So basically, what would be your personal data? As I said, your name, your mobile number, your email, your Aadhaar, your PAN, your bank account details. As I mentioned, we enter there. Your location data. Sometimes I'm on Facebook, I keep my location on. I'm on WhatsApp, I keep my location on. So locations can be shared with somebody else. Your for personal photographs. I'm uploading something on Insta. I'm uploading on X, or I'm sharing anywhere. My data can be downloaded by anybody else. So biometric transformations, nowadays it's very common that when I go to the job, I have to do the biometric attendance there. And sometime if I go for a visa, then again my biometric has been there. So these biometric informations, these are very personal, individual centric. This should not be shared with somebody else. So there had been a violation of these, and the people's personal data had been shared. And then also the health records which have been there. Nobody is entitled to know about my health if I'm suffering from health, until unless that person is in that kind of relationship with me which requires to know about it. So it should not be shared with that. So it is protects the rights of an individuals. They know how their personal data is being used. Who all, if I'm sharing my data, who all should be using that data, or I'm permitting them or not permitting them. What is the correct, accurate, inaccurate personal data which have been there? Request for the deletion, deleting all these personal data. If I have not consented onto it, I have all rights to get this data can be deleted. Then the withdrawal of the consent for processing the personal data, seeking grievance redressal for the misuse of the. So these are the rights which have been given to an individual, as Ms. Kaur has correctly stated. That is, if such rights have been violated, we can go and seek our protection. So any organization, any institution which are collecting their personal data, they must seek the consent of an individual before sharing it with somebody else. If they refuses, it cannot be shared. And it should be only used for the lawful purposes, not and there's certain security standards which is to be followed. And reports of such kind of a violation of a personal breaches which has been there can be given onto the Data Protection Board of India, which is constituted under this act. So exactly, it is not relating to the cyber. I will not say it's a cyber offenses which have been dealt onto it, but somewhere digital rights, which if it's been violated and anybody's committing a cyber offense onto it, then the person can invoke the DPTP Act. So certain examples I have given here, like as I mentioned you, that an e-commerce company shares your phone numbers with a marketing agency without your consent. As I said, suppose I'm going on Amazon and I'm going Flipkart. I fill in my mobile numbers and other details. So without my permission, if they are sharing those data with anybody else for any of the purpose, maybe the bank statement to open a bank account or to buy a property, so it's my violation of my privacy. Also, hospital leaks the patient's medical records due to poor cybersecurity laws which are being there. Then the organization has to face the action against the DPTP Act. Or if in education institution they suffer cyber attack, exposing the student's name, because when we take an admission somewhere as an employee or as a student also, then we give our names, addresses, parents' name, our examination records, everything has been given there. So if there has been violations, then the institutions, the organizations would be responsible. So as I mentioned, is it not exactly governing all the cyber crimes? But if these rights are being violated, if their private data are being shared somebody else, then the organization has to ensure and should take up the responsibility of such personal data. If it has been leaked out, then the consequences has to be taken up by the organization for the same. So there are two major acts which have been there. There is an IT Act, that is Information Technology Act, and there we have a Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, which has been enacted in 2023. Earlier it was called as IPC. So far, any questions? Or should I continue? Yeah, I could not hear you. Okay, I assume. So if you have any questions, you can interrupt me in between. We're going to talk about certain offenses, cyber offenses, which have been there. So starting with, I've tried to make it very simplified for the audience. The first offense would be the cyber stalking. As I said, if you are chasing repetitively on in an e-form, somebody maybe through social media, emails, messaging apps, any other online platforms, and the person is not interested into you with you to get in touch with you, but you're constantly chasing the person just to create that fear, to capture their minds and make them do what you want to do. So supposedly, as I put up an illustration here, a man is repeatedly creating a fake Instagram accounts after being blocked and continuously following messages or monitors a woman online despite her clear refusal to interact. This is called as cyber stalking. This woman can go and file a suit against this individual who is chasing her. And these are the different provisions under Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. It has been an offense under Section 78. Under the IT Act, creating these fake account and hacking, identifying the thefts, these all have been punishable, as I discussed in my previous slides. Then there had been certain guidelines of this IT information technology in 2021, which requires all the intermediaries, such as social media platforms, to encrypt, as I already mentioned about it, that this information should not be shared with anybody else, and remove all the unlawful contents and provide the grievance redress to the people. So punishment, if you are being trapped into and if you file the suit against such kind of individuals, they can be punished in somewhere between 3 years, and it can extend to the 5 years also. And additional penalties may also be applied onto the individual depending on the gravity of the offense committed by the person and the kind of trouble which has been caused to the woman. Second cybercrime would be the fake profiles or personations. Sometimes, as I said, people create, somebody pick up my DP picture, or they take up my profile pictures, and then they start putting up and creating their own identity, and then they start influencing certain other people. So such has been is been committed as an offense. Illustration is that a person creating a Facebook account using another individual name, photographs, personal details, or receive other damaged reputation or commit frauds. So it can be just not to chase for the sexual favors. It could be like defaming a person or creating a negative image of an individual. It could be for any other purposes also. Again, it has been punishable under the IT Act. You just understand there are two important laws which covers the cyber offenses in India. First is the Information Technology Act. There are different provisions onto it. If you're trapped onto it, if you understand through this session, it's well and good. If you do not, you can download this act. It's available online everywhere. You can download this act, or you can get in touch with for the legal aid. Many of the law colleges are running the legal aid clinics. You can approach them. They will guide you onto it. Or alternatively, you can get into touch with any of the advocates, and they will help you out with the same. So don't think that I know everything. If you need a help, seek the help immediately from the concerned. Many people are not aware that free legal aid services has to be provided by all law schools. This is mandated by the Bar Council of India. So if you're stuck somewhere, you need a legal aid, please approach to the nearest law school. If they have a legal aid clinic, please seek the advice from the same. So I was mentioning there are two acts onto it, Information Technology Act, and second is the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. So there are certain provisions onto which would be depending what kind of remedy you are seeking from the court. Suppose if you want to say the person has faked my ID and has defamed me, the person has faked my ID and has sent some objectionable, obscene things to somebody else. So depending on to it, it depends the offense. It could be defamation, it could be identity theft, or cheating. Any of the offenses depends. It's from case to case. The person analyzes. The right legal person can advise you what exactly to do. So what are the legal remedies which are available to you? You first have to file a complaint through the National Cyber Crime Reporting Portal. So you can simply type Google onto it and you'll find this site. Or you can call onto the 1930 immediately, and they will help you with such kind of a cyber frauds. Secondly, after filing or lodging a complaint, sometimes we think if filing complaint is enough. No, it is not enough. Complaint is just to bring into the notice that this has happened with me. Second step is required, that you require to file the FIR. You have to go to the police station, nearest police station, and you have to file an FIR. Once you file an FIR, then it becomes the legal proceedings will begin. Simple, as I explained to you, simply on ICIS Cyber Crime Reporting Portal. Reporting means you're just reporting the offense which has been committed. You're not seeking for any remedy or action against individuals. It's important that you go to the police station, report the fake accounts which are being there, and immediately try to block it or to get it removed immediately, and seek the criminal actions for the identification of the thefts. So sometimes even if your friends ask you have to complain. Like in Facebook also, so it had happened with few of my friends that their fake IDs have been created on the Facebook. So they have messaged me, please raise a complaint. So there is always an option on these social media apps which have been there, that you can raise the complaint. that this is a fake account. This is not, I know this person, he's my friend, he's my husband, he's my child, and this is a duplicate account or a fake account which has been created. So immediately the Facebook or the Twitter or whosoever is there will immediately block that account if they found that there's a genuine culprit here. So far clear? Can I move further to other offenses? Okay, I assume you have understood. Okay, so next is morphing of an image of the deep fakes, as Ms. Kaur has talked about the deep fake incidents where there's a use of an AI. You use the AI and you suppose my face has been replaced with somebody else's face is been there. So there's a manipulation onto the identity of an individual where the fake pictures, images, videos, audios, these are being created and the permission of the concerned person is not being taken. So it's a generative adversarial networks through these techniques. This deepfakes has been done. So an illustration I have put up here that a person photograph is digitally altered or using image editing software of AI, software or AI to create a fake or a misleading image or a video. Actually, that is not me, it's somebody else, the person says. And this you must have seen with many political leaders. If the instances have happened, many actresses have faced this problem of deep fake, and which is then circulated on the social media of messaging platforms without the person's consent. The person has not consented, and it has been so organic, looks so original that we believe that that person has been there. That is the smartness which a person do with the help of an AI. So common misuse is like non-consensual intimate images or the videos, fake celebrity endorsements, financial fraud through voice modulations of the same person. You tap the voice by the AI and you start speaking to the same tone and same accent of an individual. Then you blackmail and create an extortions. Political misinformations had been there, identity thefts and the reputational harms which are being caused. So there, have you any one of you have faced such things, or you have seen somewhere such kind of a videos of politicians, celebrities, or fake voices? Like my voice has been copied and AI speaks in the same tone and the same accent. Have you seen any cases, read such cases? Not there, or I'm out. Yeah, I can see people here. Any deepfake cases you have read?
Ma'am, like I mentioned at the very beginning, that my sister unfortunately went through this.
Yeah, this is one case I read. And I heard anybody else? There was an actress also, Samantha, if I remember her name correctly, the South Indian actress.
Rashmika Mandani.
Ah, Rashmika. Sorry, I forgot the name. Rashmika. You have all have seen that video?
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
one of the most popular video from where we got to know about the deep fake. Right? It was highlighted that this has been done. So she was being morphed, and her picture, her face was morphed onto somebody else, and everybody believed that it was she who's actually doing that act, and she was not. And then she reported the matter immediately for the action. So just a second. Hold this. So again, if such act happens with you, then Ms. Kaur, have you taken any action against that boy who has done against your sister? Did you file an FIR?
Yes, we did. So she's in US currently, and there's a litigation ongoing at present.
Achha, here itself in India?
No, there itself in US.
Or it happened in US? Okay. So in India, if it happens with anybody, then again, IT Act Section 66E or 6767A. So these are more technical. If you can take a picture, as I said, we can explain you more in detail if you face such kind of cyber offenses. And what you're supposed to do immediately, you should immediately record the content, or you just keep those evidences with you. You keep a screenshots of the videos or the URLs as an evidence, and immediately launch a complaint onto the cybercrime.gov.in. And either you can go immediately to the nearest cyber crime police station. Every police station is supposed to have now the cybercrime section there. although practically there are certain challenges. Even where I am staying in Bangalore, our students have approached to the nearest police station, and they have faced certain cyber offenses, but it has been not recorded because the police station is not equipped with the cyber crimes pupils who can register such kind of complaints. So that is an infrastructure problem and the lethargic attitude of the government, but it has been required to be there. Anyways, you should try to approach immediately for the same. Then comes the certain illustrations, as I talked about celebrity Rashmika Mandana case which had happened, then the voice cloning frauds which have been currently happening. The people voices have been recorded and the fake messages are being given to for some extraction of the money, or getting a girl and getting her sexually exploiting a woman by voice cloning frauds which have been there. Then is electronic elections misinformations. You are cloning any of the minister and trying to give certain statements which actually that political leader has not done, just to defame him and to malign the image of that particular political party. Then there are many incidences have been happening onto the student harassments, where the students' pictures are being altered using an AI to create the fabricated images, and then they have been blackmailed onto the same. Then there have been the corporate reputation attacks on the CEOs or the key officials of the company. So in this case, the key legal issues which have been raised by this deepfake has been the violation of the privacy, find the thefts and there is a theft of their identity, and the person has been defamed. There has been a sexual harassment. There have been frauds, election misinformations, IP infringements which had happened. So, deepfake is one of the recent challenges in the AI era, and still in India we do not have a concrete and a law which specifically deals with this deepfakes. We are still reliant onto the other laws like IT and the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, IT Act, and the Bharatiya Nyaya BNS, what we call it as, and also onto the IP. If it's infringement of the IPs, then we are dependent onto the IP laws there, which themselves are not sufficient exactly to deal with the deepfake. So somewhere the courts are still adjudicating or based upon to these statutes which have been available. There is a dire need to have a separate law dealing with these AI offenses relating to the through the cyber crimes. Then there is a revenge porn or a non-consensual intimate image sharing, which is also called as NCII. So when you do not take, there are many instances nowadays that have been happening that a a girl does not agrees with a boy, and the boy wants to take a revenge. He says either you are mine or no one's else. So they want to take some revenge against the woman. So earlier it used to be acidic attacks which were done by the males against the woman. Now recently in the AI era, in the digital era, now they have started harming the image of the female through the revenge porn. They do take help of the morphing. They do take off the deepfake. Such tools have been used to take a revenge porn. And you create certain videos of an individual. Today morning, I was discussing one case with my faculty. She's from Assam, and she was mentioning that one of her known in Assam, she has refused to be with that boy. And this boy, then they had certain, when they were in a relationship, they had certain intimate relationships. So this boy, what he did, that he wanted to take a revenge against the woman. Now, this woman separated with the boy. She got married. She had her children also. Now, in between, she was not aware what this boy has done as a revenge, that he has taken the picture of the woman as a revenge initially, and he has created certain porn movies. Late, the girl was not watching it. She was not aware. It did not reach to her. Initially, it was a revenge. Then he thought that then he started getting money out of it because of providing those pictures to the different agencies which were morphing and using those pictures. Then this continued. Now, then initially it was revenge. Then he started making money out of selling the picture of the woman. And after 5-6 months, she was married. She had kids also. And one day, her brother received one of his friends shared, and she said, "Ki, your sister she's your sister. She's on porn movies." And then they brought in this came into their notice that this is happening. And then she launched a complaint, and there was a litigation right now going on. So such cases also happens, and the woman gets to know about after years that, and it is her marriage has been endangered because of all this. So In such cases, you have to again be very vigilant. I repeat, all the women to be very, very careful while getting into the relationship. Don't, even if you're married also, even if you're married, don't share or record such intimate pictures or the scenes there. So again, I speak about the IT Act, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, and recent representation of the Women Prohibition Act. Such depending on to the nature of offense which has been committed by individual, you can file the suit against the individual. So punishment varies from act to act. It is different IT Act and Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. So you have to fix up your case under the right statute so that you can get the remedy. So first of all, again, I repeat here, collect all the evidences, screenshot, URLs, etc. Report to the content to the police, file and lodge an FIR, lodge in complaint, lodge an FIR, and then start prosecution against the individual. Then another offense is extortion. Now, sex, it is separated is out of two words, sex and extortion. In itself, it's not an offense anywhere defined into it. But if any person is you misusing your pictures, your videos, or the recording for the blackmail purposes in order to extort the money, that is called as sextortion. So what the person is trying to do with the female, he's threatening the woman that I will disclose your intimate content to your school teachers, to your spouse, to your parents, to your neighbors, and they start demanding money, right? And they all the sexual favors, either one of them, they start demanding, and they put into the mind of the woman that if I disclose it to publicly, there it will bring shame to your family. It will affect it. It's going to cause embarrassments. Your relatives will not like you. Your siblings' marriage would be in trouble. So all these fears or apprehensions are created in the mind of the individual. So the common methods are here the fake online romances, these are honey traps, the secret recording videos, calls when you're talking to a person, he's recording your videos, or hacked webcams or the cloud accounts, stolen intimate pictures, AI generated deepfake. These are the various methods through sextortion has been done. Not necessary that you have to be in relation with the person. So a victim is persuaded to share the images personally on a video call somewhere. The offender secretly records it and later threatens to publish the content unless the victim pays money or shares more explicit material or pay money or some other demands which are being made by the boy. So sometimes such act leads to the gang rapes also. So be careful onto it. Don't be scared. Just complain if you have been caught into such kind of a honey trap. Don't feel ashamed of it or don't feel guilty onto it, and immediately the lady should complain onto the same. Again, the image evidences are very important. You have to preserve the evidences, record the URLs or anywhere which all this you have been asked to pay such kind of a favors to the individual. Then in online financial frauds, QR code scams are happening nowadays. We all know that QR scams are happening for receiving the money. Generally, we use the mobile and we scan and we pay the amount to any of the vendors or the person. But nowadays, they are sending the QR code to scan and receive the money. So don't get into the trap. QR codes are generally being used only to give money and not to receive the money. Another financial fake KYC scams are happening where the person says I'm a bank official and asks the victims to update the KYC and take up all the personal information of the individual. Then the fake passes scam, as Ms. Kaur has already mentioned, and even my sister also experienced the same, where they have been saying that you have received a parcel from XYZ country and it's of lakhs of rupees or crores of rupees. You just have to pay the parcel charge, the deliverable charges to us, and then we'll hand it over to you. Or there are fake police, CBI, ED calls which are happening. Then the digital arrest scam, I'm going to a little bit more elaborate later on if the time permits. So digital officers are calling you and the police officers are giving you digital calls and they're asking for this. Again, these have been offenses and punishable under IT Act and the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. In such cases, when you get any online financial fraud, immediately give a call to 1930 so that all the transactions can be immediately stopped onto the same. The delay it is, more problem it is. As I was talking about a digital arrest, as you know, now you get a call that your car is being seized or there is some offense which you have committed. There's a financial fraud on your side. Some person depicting himself as a CBI, police officer, ED, RBI, custom officers or a narcotic bureau, that there is a parcel found where there are drugs into it and it is in your name. So police will come and arrest you. and they claim it to be a digitally arresting you, and they ask you certain details about you, your bank account, and they say we'll relieve you if you transfer certain amount to us, and not to reveal to somebody else. So in this case, victims are required to be more careful here. If you are getting any multiple times, there have been videos circulated by the police officials and by the government that there's nothing called as digital arrest. If the police wants to arrest you, they will come to your home or they will get a warrant to you. There's nothing like digital arrest which has been there. So avoid such kind. If you're getting any such calls or your friends are getting, tell them there's nothing like it. Don't be scared. They will try to threaten, they try to trap onto your minds. The victims are generally in such cases have been asked to be on the video calls, and they have been immediately asked to share the OTPs or transfer the amount immediately. So this all works under the fear and the threat, and the person gets trapped into and they pay onto it. So a retired professor, just a scenario given, receives a video call from a person claiming to be the CBI officer. The caller alleges to be passing the professor's name containing illegal items. As I said, sometimes they say drugs or some weapons which are being there. And they immediately threat that we will take an action against you if you do not pay the money. In that case, the person gets trapped and he transfers the money. And the person is threatening with the digital arrest frauds. In such cases, immediately call to 1930 immediately and tell the number from which we have got the call, because no genuine police officer, court, government agency will ever ask you to transfer the amount or to share the OTPs. It's for not being required. So be vigilant onto it. Then how to preserve the digital evidences. This is very important. I have done some don'ts and why you are not supposed to delete messages. The moment somebody is asking you or sending you certain pictures and you are scared, what if my mom sees, what if my spouse sees, they will start deleting those messages or the images which have been shared with you. Don't do that. Don't ever do that, because deleted chats may contain the crucial evidences of the offenses. Maybe initially it is on lighter side, it gets severe as with the passage of time, the person gets into their mind. So do not delete the messages. Do not block the offender immediately. The moment you get the call, immediately come and block it. No, don't do that. You should first preserve the evidences, because court believes in evidences. You have to create the evidences. Do not quickly block a person. It may prevent you from accessing their chats or their profile details, and they might move to somewhere else. So do not immediately block it. Just create an evidence quickly. And then once you're confident that you have recorded it, then you can block or delete whatever you want to do. Then factory reset. Please.
Actually, there's a question from Shweta Singh in the chat box.
Please. Yeah, please.
It's like, can someone be convicted based solely on a screenshot?
I'm coming on to it. Now we have a forensic bodies which have been there, forensic experts which have been there. It's not that, as I was talking about the morphed documents or the morphed pictures which have been there. So digital evidences, if they are organic, they are original. Yes, the recent Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita has included, and it will be considered as an pure evidence if it is not been morphed, not been tempered, not been edited. So that's why I'm saying you should not, last point, if you see on my screen, I have written not to edit or crop the screenshot. Whatever you have taken, it should be organic. Organic means it should be in original state. If I'm picturing myself right now on my mobile, it's in organic right now how I am. But if I use those filters there, if I try to edit the pictures, it's not been authentic into the court of law. Have I answered your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So
also there's another question. Another question. Usually spam calls are blocked immediately, but can it be harmful by merely attending?
Sometimes yes, because they call you and they ask you to be on call, and by that time they have an access onto all your phone settings and all. So do not stay. When you doubt a person, do not stay on a call for a long. Immediately cut the call. If sometimes you get international numbers which have been then you do not know the person who's calling, do not attend such kind, because they might attack your phone and they get extracted your personal informations. So what is required, instead of blocking, you just take a screenshot. I'm not saying you do not block it at all, but what we say, we see and we block it immediately. Don't do that. If you are suspicious about an individual with regard to these loans and all, this is not to be reported. You can simply block it and you cannot require to go. But if you think it's threatening you of the different offenses which I have discussed, then you are supposed to take a screenshot or record it and then block it. right?
Yeah, thank you.
So what you are supposed to do immediately, as I was talking about, take a screenshot, the profile name, pictures. If I see my image has been used in any of the IDs or DPs or anywhere, take a screenshot, make a screen recording, because you must have seen many reels which have been coming up where the people have been, there have been extortions and all. The screen recordings have been done immediately, so that you can record scrolling those. You take your mobile, start scrolling your chats, profiles, posts, whatever transactions, to just to preserve the complex context, because subsequently court will ask you to produce the evidences. Recently, with regard to URL web link, I have seen one case where the person has booked a property in Maharashtra, and he checked the property because there are nowadays many homestays which have been there. So this person had checked on Make My Trip, which I have seen the case. They have checked out the property onto the Make My Trip, and then they realized that it is an authentic website. But at the same time, they did not book it through Make My Trip, but they approached the number which have been given. When they approach the person with the number or the digits which have been given, the person has asked them to give direct money to them and not to go through these portals. So this person, through mobile, not on the website, I am saying, through the mobile apps, they have exchanged the money, and they were supposed to travel somewhere in December. And December, after receiving the money, the person stopped responding to this couple. And subsequently, when they reached in December, there was no property of such a name. So such show cause is also given to the Make My Trip also, to say why they have listed a property which is not in existence. And also the parents, the couple's case has been filed. So be careful of the URLs which you are accessing, and if it's a fraud, in such cases, keep such URLs, web links saved with you, so that you can produce before the court. Save the email headers, download the chats, keep the original files, whichever has been the image, videos, audios, whatever you have received. Record the date and the time exactly. Whenever you are recording, if it's an email, on the top of the email, the dates have been there. If you're recording the mobile, then you keep your those timers, time, dates, which pops up there, to keep it intact there. Backup evidence securely. Save copies of the cloud storages or external devices so that evidence is not being lost. There is a chain of custody. It's very important to preserve the evidences because it's one of the strongest tools for securing justice. As many people ask why in India cases have been lingering for over the years, because of the lack of evidences. We know the person has committed, but still, till we do not produce the evidences, the court will not held the person guilty onto the same. Chain of custody basically means keeping a clear record of who collected, who handled, who stored, who transferred, and examined the digital evidences from moment it was discovered until it is produced before the court. So it's a chain. I give it to police, cyber will give it to the forensic expert. I will explain you that chain has been there. So this chain of records has to be mentioned. So supposedly you have received a threatening messages or some sex favor messages onto the mobile. You take a screenshot and save the chat. You report it to cyber police. The police seizes your mobile. Then prepare a seized memo. This is the mobile, this is the module, and they send it to the forensic expert, who then examines the forensic copies. The evidence is produced before the court here. So every stage it has been recorded, and who handled the evidence in different stages where it has been crossing onto it. It is very important because it proves that the evidence has been authentic. It shows that the evidence has not been tempered, it has been not altered, it not has been replaced, it not been edited, and it has its own credibility and admissibility into the digital courts. Like I give you an example here. If you see that think of a digital evidence in a way like a person, they passes the baton. I just given a picture. There's a race and you keep on passing the baton. And once the baton has been lost or missing, or it's been tampered, or it's not been timely passed, the integrity of the race itself is being questioned. Similarly, if you compare this with the digital evidences which have been there. So once you create a digital evidences in your mobiles or your screenshots, on your laptops, anywhere, hard disk, whatever you are using, then from victim it goes to the cyber police, the passing of the part. From you it goes to the cyber police, from cyber police it goes to the forensic laboratory, from forensic laboratory expert submits to the courts. That is, each stage it is recorded, who received the evidence, the court look into it, when it was received, who examined it, when it was transferred, who currently has it. This continuous record is called the chain of custody. And this entirely has to be proved into the court of law. So you have to keep you have to be very, very careful while keeping these evidences and make the person punished for the offense. Am I clear? Any questions there? Or should I move on?
Yes, ma'am. There is one question from
Yeah.
Shweta Singh. Will AI reduce cyber crimes or increase them further in the future?
Things as we more get into the digital things, we get more into the AI, things will be complicated, yes. But the only way out is to be more vigilant onto it. Keep yourself updated, know the laws onto it. I believe the prevention is the best cure, right? Instead of taking the treatment, you have to be conscious onto it. AI would be creating certain problems, but if you are vigilant, if you are careful, about your rights, about your duties, about your laws, then it won't be. Yes? Yes, Shweta, is it clear?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Clear.
So filing complaints, how to file the complaints and where to file the complaints. So the first way or the first place you can file is the National Cyber Crime Reporting Portal, which I've already explained in my initial part of my lecture. That you are required, you can report any matter relating to your cyber offense. It could be online financial transactions, social media, deep faking, cyber stalking, sextortions, whatever I have discussed on to it, sexual abuse against the child. This is all you can report there. Keep ready. While you're complaining, there's a certain format or a form will come into you where you have to, while lodging the complaint, you have to share the screen shots, your URLs, your mobile numbers, IDs, bank transaction details if it is a financial fraud, date and timing of the incidents, copies of the chat emails. So this you have to keep intact before filing or logging into this. Even onto this National Cyber Crime Reporting Portal, you have an anonymous report. There's a separate women's cell is also there. I'm going to talk about it, where the only women's offenses can be recorded. There's another link where all the generic offenses can be filed. So special portal has been given for the females also. And then second way is the 1930. You should immediately call in case there are any financial frauds which had happened against you. This is the quickest and the easiest way to get back your money. The more delay has been there, there are less chances for recovering back your finances. The sooner you file it out, the court will, the police will help you out to recover your money at the earliest. The golden hours, we call it as golden hours, like within 24 hours. And I will say even 24 hours are more earliest. The moment it happens with you, immediately report. Don't wait after 1 hour. Maybe I'm thinking too much. Don't get trapped into your own thought processes. Immediately give a call so that your finances can immediately come back to your account. It will help because it will get to freeze or hold the fraudulent transactions before the money is withdrawn or transferred to the transferred further. Because sometimes what happens, the person who takes take away the money from your account, he doesn't keep, he transfers in some other account somewhere else. Then it gets very difficult for the cyber experts to find exactly where the money is being lying now. So you should report within the minutes, not in hours or days. Golden hour, as I said, the golden time has been there. You should immediately complain onto it to recover and not to suffer because of the delays. Third way is the go to police station. What has been you do use complaint 1930, or do you go to this portal and you launch your complaint, then go to the police station, lodge an FIR is very, 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 very important. Then only you can proceed with the criminal actions or whatever the remedy you're seeking from the court. So the police are specialized into the hacking, online financial fraud, like you know, cyber police has been there, cyber stalking, sextortion, all matters to be dealt by them. Then one thing is called as zero FIR. So what is zero FIR is that it can be registered at any police station. Now this is the police cannot say we do not have a jurisdiction. You belong to XY place and why you're coming to me. Zero FIR means irrespective of the jurisdiction, whether the crime has happened there or has not happened there. You can go to any police station regardless wherever the offense has been occurred. Whichever is your nearest police station, you can go there, and if the police object that they do not have a territorial jurisdiction, you can object onto that also. So suppose I've given an example, a student is in Bangalore, is cheated by fraudulent operating from Delhi while traveling in Mysore. he will not go to Delhi and file a launcher complaint. He, wherever he is at that point of time, maybe he's traveling from Bangalore to say Hyderabad to Telangana, wherever is he, at that point of time, he will get down, he'll go to the nearest police station, and he will find the zero FIR, irrespective wherever it has happened. And the moment the person has the knowledge that this has happened with me, then and there he can file that. It helps to immediately register the matter, so police can transfer. Subsequently, what happens that police transfer to the respective jurisdiction, but they take cognizance of the offense which had happened. It prevents delays in investigations, and it helps the victims. Many times victims are not even aware of the jurisdictions, so the police helps them out, this will go there, and they immediately take an action against that. So zero FIR is equally important. If you're not aware which court to go, which police station should I go, you can go to the nearest. As I was talking about the women's cell, so women's cells, women who are experiencing any cyber offenses, so on this portal, on the National Cyber Crime Reporting, the women have a separate column, a separate page, I would say, of the women's cells, where anything like cyber stalking, extortions, revenge porn, morphing, deepfake, anything is happening, they can go and separately file, and they are immediately taking action against it. So practical advice, as I'm repeatedly telling to all of you, call 1930 immediately in case of financial frauds. For any other frauds, as I told you, there is a portal where it talks specifically for the women, and there's another financial. If this may happen with the males also, they can also file they can file the complaints there. So the golden rules are: report quickly, don't wait back, don't overthink onto it, preserve your digital evidences. Early reporting will give you the best chances to get the remedy what we exactly expecting from the court. Like if my photograph has been merged or deepfaked, I will not wait for years or months or days. I should immediately pull it so that that picture is not circulated. The circulation may be stopped there. So how this circulation will stop, or what are the precautionary bodies who can stop this kind of an offenses? I'm going to talk about it. There are different mechanisms which have been there of reporting, which this will help you to understand when to use these, why these different she-box, stop NSI, they are existing into it, or how does it helps a woman to handle these offenses. So she-box is basically about the sexual offenses or the harassments which are happening into the workplace, right? You all know about the POSH Act, which is the sexual harassment of the woman in the workplace. So under is there's a she-box, and just give me a minute. Just there's somebody. So sorry. So the she-box is basically, this is an online complaint portal where a woman is facing any sexual harassment at the workplace. She can file and she can launch a complaint there. Any sexual favors which have been asked or messages which have been sent to the woman, many of her co-worker, from a supervisor, maybe an attendant, maybe a peon, maybe a driver, anything of sexual comments which have been made. In such cases, she can launch the complaint here. So what is the difference between the cyber crime and the sexual harassment at the workplace? Such acts, if it happens through electronic modes, right, then she can go onto these portals. If ordinary it is happening into such kind of comments into the office, in such cases, there is an IC committees are being the internal committees under the POSH Act, which has been there in any and every workplace. And if woman is facing any such kind of unpleasant incidences in her workplace, in that case, she can go to her internal committee cell. And what happens in internal committee cells, they hear the matter, they called the victim, they call the accused, but the person who's against whom the complaint has been lodged, they hear the matter. Sometimes it happens into the terminations, suspensions, transfers of the employees, depending on to the gravity of an offense. But the cyber crimes, as we all know, It may be committed by a known or unknown person, and it has to be investigated by the cybercrime police. No internal bodies can examine such matters. It has been governed under the IT Act and the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. And under the cybercrimes, there could be a criminal prosecution, but not necessary in the case of the sexual harassments. But as I said, certain cases may have a mix of both. It is sexual harassment in the workplace. At the same time, certain cyber offense has been committed against the, like stalking or voyeurism, anything such kind has happened, then it might fall under both the categories. And maybe the workplace will set up an internal committee and decide about the employability of that person, and the criminal action will be taken against the under the criminal law. There can be both actions can be taken against that the person who's been accused for this offense. Internal committees are, as I already explained you, its members are presiding officers, who the senior most female of the company or the organization. At least 2 employee members should be committed to women cause. 1 external expert has to be there, and entire composition of this should be comprising of 50% of the females. As I already explained you the procedure, the complaints are received, both fair chances be given to both the sides to present their case, and if found guilty of such offense, then actions are being taken by the company or the organization. So I give you example of a cybercrime. As you all know, creating a fake Instagram profiles, or all we have discussed, falls under the cyber crime police. And if any sexual suggestive WhatsApp messages or sending, asking a woman to meet at the farmhouse or asking for the sexual favors, so such incidences can be taken case in the institute itself or the organization itself by internal committee. And if the woman finds it to be too grave, she can approach the cybercrime police also. Second is stop NCIL. That means stop non-consensual intimate image abuse. As I was talking about it, if a lady has not consented for the intimate image on any of the social media platforms, not just onto any social media, no means no, what we talk about it. So if it's only for their own devices, for their own personal images, as I said, generally not what is happening in the living relationships or situationships, whatever is happening right now. So if such things had happened with a woman, without her consent, the woman's images have been circulated, then the image is converted into the unique digital hashtag. What they do, they cannot actually, they try to prevent that fingerprints, like exactly where that image of the woman has been there. So if the image itself is not uploaded or stored onto the platform, they try to reverse the effect of this personal intimate or non-consensual intimate images which are being used. So where the participating platforms, they compare the uploaded content with the hash and can block or remove the matching images. So they try to delete the digital prints, although it's very difficult, but they try to digitally hashtag and try to remove from there. So such cases or the stop NCIL generally helps into revenge porn, intimate images shared without the consent, or extortions, which I have talked about it. So it just this stop NCIL only try to spread of the images. It cannot curb it. It cannot stop it. It's been shared multiple. It would be difficult to remove from all. Digital prints cannot be removed in toto. That's why I said complete immediately. Don't wait. Otherwise, it has been shared with multiple sources, multiple platforms. So in that case, you they stop this kind of an image, but at the same time, you should also file the police complaint. Then another way is the Sanchar Sathi portal, which has been there. Sanchar Sathi portal, as you understand, Sanchar basically means with the mobile. So this is a portal launched by the Department of Telecommunication. So if any mobile-related cyber offenses had happened with you, if your mobile has been stolen or it's been lost, or you have certain, you want to block your mobile phone with IMEI numbers, or you want to trace and unblock the devices, it's been recovered. So these are the main services which have been provided by it. So you can check how many mobile numbers are registered in your name. Suppose sometime I have given my Aadhaar card multiple places, I have given my driving license multiple places, and person are using it and buying SIM, as in giving those photocopies there. So you can report such unauthorized or unknown mobile connections which are in your name, but actually you have not taken them. So it will help to prevent the frauds, verify the genuine mobile connections, reduce the SIM-related identity frauds which are happening. So Sanchar Sati portal is another way when something goes wrong with your mobile and their chances. Other mechanisms are the National Crime Report portal. I have already explained you in my previous slides. First thing you can do is to report your complaints there. Other is to call 1930 with regard to any of the offenses. This also I have explained you. Golden hour. As soon as it happens, please immediately take an action. Don't wait. Don't wait for somebody to come and help you out. Help yourself. That's the best way. Then the social media reporting tools have been there. Every major platforms provides in-app reporting options. As I said, if you go on Insta and all, they ask you if it's a fake account, you can complain, you can ask them to block. If somebody's harassing you or cyberbullying you, then immediately you can upload and sending certain obscene messages. We are not okay. Share a screenshot and complain them, and they immediately block that person. So as I've said here, Facebook, Insta, Twitter, or X, YouTube, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, they all have these kind of a facility. So quick glance for you. So 1930, you can call for financial fraud, cybercrime portal for any kind of cyber offenses, special portal for the woman. Stop NCII for spreading the images, further spreading of the images. Sanchar Sati with regard to your mobile, anything you're lost or mobile is lost or stolen. Social media reporting immediately wherever this act is happening, you can block. SheBox is reporting the post or the sexual harassment at the workplace. Now we're understanding this quickly. I will let you know the cyber investigation process which has been there. So first is to file the complaint. I have explained you. FIR is to be registered, as explained you. Digital evidence collection is mandatory. Then IP address and device tracing. This you need not have to do. Once you launch a complaint, they will do this. bank and the mobile records will be taken up. Social media requests, you can send that. Digital forensic analysis will be done, as I explained you the stages with which the evidence reaches to the court. Identification of the accused has been done, charges is filed, and the trial begins there. So this is the process before the actual trial begins. So you have to be careful where you can file and who investigates. Cyber police stations, I have explained you, they take the cognizance of an offense the moment you file. Register an FIR is very important. And then CERT, I will explain you, that is the Indian Computer Emergency Response Team. Any phishing, any attack, cyber attacks which are happening, they are supposed to help and guide the people. Forensic science laboratories are there. Forensic experts using the AI tools, etc., help you out. And then there are examiners of electronic evidences. The government notified experts. When forensic experts submitted, the court appoints their own notified experts, and they authenticate whatever report submitted to them. And then the court takes the cognizance to take and just give justice to the victims. Anything you want to say? I'm a little delayed. Anything? Anybody was saying something, or should I continue quickly? Okay. So what is CERT? It is the Indian Computer Emergency Response Team. Anything, any urgent, it has been set up by MeitY, that is Ministry of Electronic Information Technology, by the Government of India. Any cyber security threats are there, or incidences happen. Immediately this body takes, once it comes into their notice, they issue immediately to the public about the cyber security alerts, advisories, or vulnerabilities, what you're supposed to do it. And they also report and give incidences to all the government, industry, and the service providers. They give the technical guidance during the major cyber attacks and the incidents which are happening. They also collect and analyze the cyber threat information. So they also coordinate with international computer emergency response teams if any threat is coming internationally there. And this body has been established in 2000 by the IT Act under Section 70B. So my quick tips to all of you is think before you click. Avoid suspicious links, QR codes, unknown calls. If anything, your instinct is very strong. Believe into your instincts and don't trust. Don't just give anybody a second chance onto it. Protect your personal data. Don't share your password with anybody. Means anybody. It could be his closest friend, sibling. Avoid sharing with it. Keep it very confidential to you. Preserve the digital evidences. I've talked elaborative onto it. Your screenshots are all important. Report immediately for these. I will be sharing these slides with the organizers if they want to have it. So these are the links, various links where different portals have already talked to you. You can immediately launch your complaint there. Then cybercrime is never don't think, feel guilty, feel ashamed what people will say, what people will think. Don't think of it. It's about your safety and security and the next 50, 60 years of your life. So immediately bring into the notice. So use strong passwords, use password managers, like as I said, double screening. You may have your password, you can put up your thumbs, double protected, enable two-factor authentications, which are generally there in all the banks when you're opening the account. Review the privacy settings, understand what you're saying okay, what you're not saying okay. To review, don't just click, give some time, review all the privacy setting and wherever it's required on and off. Don't keep your Insta, Facebook accounts openly, or don't share your mobile numbers anywhere and everywhere. Control the location sharing, with whom you are sharing. Be careful. Think wherever link comes, there's a job offer and you're clicking on to it, or you think it's a message from your friend and you click on. Just think before you click. Never share the OTPs or the password. Use Google reverse image search if you are doubting, suspicion somebody. Keep your device updated. Generally, we get mobiles update, we get laptop updates, and we are reluctant. Sometimes we are busy. Keep it updated. It will help you with the phishings and other cyber attacks. Backup important data. Keep it secured in the cloud storage or in external devices, which wherever you feel comfortable. So quickly with the session, we have learned that there's nothing called as fake police or digital arrest scam called 1930. Deepfake of women shared online. So in that case, stop NCCI and you can immediately report such matter. Fake Instagram or any social media profiles, report the fake accounts immediately. Ask your friends also to report onto it. Extortion, don't get threatened, don't get afraid of the blackmailers. Immediately preserve evidence and report immediately. No QR codes asked for receiving the money. It's only for the setting of the money. So with this, I'm a little delayed. I'm sorry for that, but I hope this has been informative for all of you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an enlightening session. This discussion has set a strong foundation for all of us as learners and practitioners, highlighting exactly how cyber laws protect women's rights in the digital space. We are now opening the floor for the questions from the participants. Please drop your questions in the chat. If you wish to speak, raise your hand and we'll call you one by one. We'll take as many questions as time allows.
I wish to share certain Supreme Court judgments and the High Court judgments, but I thought it's just a first session. Maybe in the future, certain advance, we're going to talk more legal cases onto it. Just citing the illustrations and all.
So if participants have any questions, they can ask ma'am.
If not now, at any point of time, as I told you, you can get in touch with any law schools. They have their legal aid clinics there. You can share just not the cyber issues. I'm saying any legal concerns you have. You can get in touch with the legal aid clinics and sort. I think your foundation is also working already. Yes, Mr. Yashwant, your foundation is also providing the advices, the legal assistance.
No, ma'am, we do conduct these sessions, we bring the practitioners like this and we'll conduct through them.
So more awareness sessions you are creating, right?
So I would like to interrupt, ma'am. My name is Rishabh and I'm managing director of the foundation. Yashwant works just one project, that is the Project Cyber Shield, and Project Cyber Shield organize the awareness sessions only. We provide the legal aid and legal consultation as well. We have a different project, yes.
So the audience, this is another the base you have. You can get in touch with the Naksh Foundation for your legal assistance and advice. Feel to talk any law professors. They are also can provide you with the legal aid. But we cannot file the litigations because we're not the practitioners. But we can guide you, direct you to the respective legal aid service authority of every state. Not just in state. I'm from state of Karnataka. In every state, there's a legal service authority. They help you out with free legal aid without even costing anything onto your pockets also.
Yeah. So sorry for providing misinformation. And with this enlightening Cyber Shakti session, we now come to the end of our program. We sincerely hope that today's session proved highly informative, enriching, and thought-provoking for everyone present here. On behalf of Naksh Foundation and Project Cybershield, we extend our deepest gratitude to Professor Dr. Sarun Sharma ma'am for conducting such an insightful session. Her legal expertise, lucid guidance, and practical insights have greatly enhanced our understanding of cyber laws and women's digital rights. Before we conclude, we invite you to join the Volunteer for Our Community campaign 2026 by Project Cybershield to become a change maker and conduct cyber awareness sessions in your community. To register, simply scan the QR code on your screen. We kindly request all the participants to complete the post-assessment form by scanning the QR code displayed on your screen. Please note that certificate will be issued only upon successful submission of the feedback form. If there is any query regarding the session or certificate, you can email at @naksh.org. Thank you for being a part of this learning journey. We look forward to welcoming you again in our upcoming sessions. Until then, stay informed, stay vigilant, stay secure, and continue contributing towards a safer and more resilient digital world. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye. Take care and have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you all for the good words. I was reading the messages. I'm glad the people liked it. I just prepared it at the last moment because I was a little busy with my office work. Thank you so very much to all of you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.